this working? Ah. Yes, hey Chitorin. Oh my god, yes. Hello. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Everything has been very, very weird today. Lots of struggles with the internet, but I guess here we are. The Umineko continues. Hey, yeah. Wait, I restarted my PC and everything is just not there. Right. I'm popping you out. Does this work for you? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Because you're just reacting properly, right? But I can't see myself. Maybe it's for the better. Everything is perfect? Not on my end, but maybe it's my borked internet not being able to load my own stream. So yeah, I'm just gonna close that, not even attempt it. It looks fine in OBS, no dropped frames. So I must find myself. Yeah, I will rely on you guys to tell me if there's anything wrong, and also there's like a little icon thingy that turns from green to red in OBS if there's an actual issue. So yeah, let's go with that, okay? Lord, I was about to worry that I wouldn't be able to have a stream at all. So yeah, okay. Sorry for the tardiness. It was not something that I predicted would happen, but okay. Let's load where we left off last time. Okay. I don't think anything. Today, I don't think anything. Today, I just read, okay? Where were we? Kinzo with his Beatrice yell. Okay. All right, I remember now the conversation. Okay. I'm back. I'm back on track. Let's go. At that moment, there was a quiet sound of a door closing. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa had appeared.
そこまでをご存知でしたら、もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのではありませんか?
Yes, please, more details.
そこまでを知るなら。
What is this song, though?
これ以上何も語ることなどないとも思うが。
Genji, don't spoil my fun, please. Give me something.
いいえ、語るべきでございます。
Yes, I agree with Kumasawa. I have no idea what she's talking about, but okay.
私は女として、クワドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました。
The heart of Quadorian's Beatrice. Okay. Mackerel woman, yeah.
そして、その資格を持つ人間が現れました。今こそ、すべてを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます。
熊沢さんは知っているのですか？ベアトリーチェのことを。
知ってるだろう。第4のゲームの時、連絡船の船長は熊沢がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。おそらく熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で異なる勤務シフトを持っていたに違いない。若い娘の世話だ。育児経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
さようでございます。乳母であったとおっしゃっていただいてもよろしいかと思います。
そんな、信じられない。本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか？
はい、事実でございます。ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷、クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち、六軒島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建てて、そこに2つの生活を両立させたんだ。
See, Will also doesn't know exactly when they got married. It makes me feel good that he's also unsure of some things. Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities. There it is. At the time. It probably hadn't been easy to set up two lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and had sniffed around all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限り、クワド時にはご出張ベアトリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。それは親子としての関係だけでなく、亡きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあったと言っているようにも聞こえるな。
おやそう聞こえたなら申し訳ございません。ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょう。しかし時にご自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは否定できません。
What does forced to bear mean? Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who had raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was often of a mistaken sort. However, the more the girl grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted.
なじれ我が友よ。分かっておる。我が愛は永遠に不滅。なれどそれが間違った相手に注がれたことがあったの。私は認めねばならぬ。
おじい様、そんな、まさか。
リオン様、世の中のすべての人間には必ず何かの縁がございます。身に覚えがなくとも必ず何かの縁がございます。その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
そんな、おじい様。
Just as Kinzo had done, Leon also wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently the truth had been too much of a shock for the young successor to handle.
親方様、もう語る時ではございませんか。
そうか。その時が来たか。我が友よ。
あんたが語らなきゃ何も真実は明らかにならない。
親方様、もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思います。分かっている。今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与えたのだろう。今日まで話さなかったことを許せ。
After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face, and looked at Will and Leon with those red eyes.
おじい様。
リオンも聞け。客人よ。ウィラードと言ったか。
ああ、
この私が自らの口より真実を話せるうちにこの機会を設けてくれたことを感謝する。
Technically you're already dead, but okay.
お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わさ
Whatever
れた
this means.
天の使いに違いない。感謝する。
その機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃねえ。どこぞの魔女だ。いや、どっちも魔女には違いね
お前が誰でもよい。私に機会を与えた。それで十分だ。感謝するぞ、ウィラードとやら。
Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hand. He was offering to shake hands. It must have been Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude. Will responded. Then the two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. Will felt as though something the size of a grain had burned itself into his palm. It was that power that Burncastle had given him. Oh, this thing again. The light grew brighter and brighter. However, it seemed that Kinzo and the others could not see it.
今こそ語ろう。私がベアトリーチェにベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったの
We have
は
a
終
name.
戦間際。
Before the end of the war. Okay.
彼女は海の向こうからやってきた。
お前は金蔵なのか。
昔のおじいさまです。写真で見たことがあります。これは一体。
ベルン・カステルのくれた感激者の力だ。無理に理解するな。
頭痛になら
分かってきたな。
Right. At one time, Genji told Battler that he looked like Kinzo in his youth. Yeah, that's why I was confused. That's an expression that Battler does. But with a different color of eyes and eyebrows. And it just threw me for a loop. I was like, what's happening? Sure enough, though the younger Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar.
改めて名乗ろう。私が後宮金蔵である。
I don't know how I feel about hearing this in Battler's voice. I mean, it's clearly a little bit modified, like he's not doing it exactly like he would do it for Battler, but
おじいさま。
even the voice seems to resemble Battler's somehow. Yeah, right? It's so creepy. Clearly, Battle had inherited Kinzo's blood more thickly than any other.
私は後宮家など継ぎたくはなかった。
Oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Visualizing it like a different variation of Battler. Yeah.
私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
関東大震災で主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
Right.
そうです。おじいさまは若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でしたから。
とんでもない。欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかったのだ。まるで沈みゆく船で 新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさよ。
Are you also saying that Kinzo has always had silver hair? Alright, let's move on.
だからこそ本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
Yeah, it's a very weird combo. That with all of the battler traits, it's just creating something that I don't know how to feel about it. I'll get used to it as we read more. It's fine. It's just the first contact moment. He needs to have the silver hair to signify he's an anime character.
全てはこの足の指のせいだ。
Wait, what? The toes? What? What am I reading? Right, those in charge passed away in the earthquake. We remember that. He was selected from the branch families. We remember that. He was wise beast by his youth. Okay. Okay. Right. Right, okay. How do the toes come in? What?
足の指が一本ずつ足りなかったなら、我が人生は全く異なるものになっていたであろう。
In the Ushiromiya family, polydactyly was seen as a sign of good fortune. That's it? This was because it was a common factor among many of the greats in the family's history.
くだらぬ話よ。長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば誰でもよかったのだ。
The part with the good fortune probably, and I forgot it. My bad.
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入り、それでいいと決まったわけか。
Yeah, imagine making such a big decision based on this. Okay, okay.
そういうことだ。長老どもは自分たちの操り人形になるなら、どこの青二歳でもよかったのだ。むしろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
Okay. White battler or red battler? Or dark red battler there on the right? It wasn't a big decision, they just wanted the puppet though. Yeah, I see. Still, it's... okay. Alright. I'll just read. I don't know how I feel about this. It's alright. I'm just thinking a little bit as a side thought. Maybe this is the most battler we're gonna get for the moment, so at least I'm happy I'm hearing Daisuke Ono's voice. It's okay, I'll take it.
おじい様。
リオン、お前は違う。お前は我が全てを受け継ぐものだ。お前が生を受けた日よりそれは運命づけられていた。だからこそお前に銀の指輪を与え厳しく育ててきた。そなたは私とは違う。誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
はい。
They have the same color of eyes, almost.
操り人形の当主か。気楽なものじゃねえだろうな。
I'm noticing that more when seeing young Kinzo, let's say. Because old Kinzo has like super tiny eyes and I don't know, it just didn't catch my eye so far. As he pondered about where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. It would probably bring back nothing but painful memories no matter where he started from.
あれはあまりに長い長い灰色の日々であった。
Span of grey days.
それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような気の遠くなるほど長い長い。
I became the rope in the tug of war between the elders, who thought of nothing but their own profit. And I probably could have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. Though I spent so many days like a dead man, I was not killed. So I would have to search for death on my own. Oh. The next thing I knew, I had reached the age when I could no longer refer to myself as young without drawing laughter from those who were. They were long, dreary, grey days without any substance. And they lasted for a full 20 years. Okay. Which track is this? Sorry. What am I pressing? This. Fall. Okay. In 20 years, a person can be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. Yeah. In short, if one truly becomes a human, only when they have become a working adult, then I spent an amount of time long enough to create a human, doing nothing except playing the part of puppet to those greedy old men. 20 years is definitely more than I thought it would be, but okay. Ironically, though that time aged my body, it did not age my mind. In my heart, I was still young, and I looked back fondly on the fulfilling days before I was summoned to Odawara. Only my body continued to age, and at some point the gulf between the two had widened to the point that it was hard to comprehend. So I could hardly believe that the worn-out man in the mirror was really me. No, it really wasn't me. I was the head of the Ushiromiya family in name only. I had no rights, no autonomy. There was no need for me to do anything other than what was asked of me. I was just a doll sitting there on the shelf gathering dust. I remember nothing but lazily flipping through Western books I liked, locking myself in my own world, doing nothing but playing with roses and drinking terrible drinks. Oh, okay. And it lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I had a stranger for a wife. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. She was someone that the elders had chosen and forced on me for their own reasons. The daughter of some noble family or something. But that hardly mattered to me. I did not love my wife, but neither did I dislike her. I just didn't care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for my wife. They were just born before I knew it. See, I think the part that really threw me for a loop, and again, I will admit, maybe these were just assumptions that I made unconsciously along the way, and I didn't realize that I shouldn't be making them. I just always had this impression that the kids were raised in this environment where he had succeeded or he was actively succeeding, and so that created the competitiveness and the need for them to be raised in the Ushiromiya spirit to whatever. To kind of take over when they're adults, this legacy that Kinzo was building, or whatever, however you want to put it. We've talked about it before, but it seems that it wasn't. So that's where things got jumbled in my head. Yeah. Yeah. So if they were just born before he knew it, okay. That's all there was to it. None of it mattered. No, that's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. That was the job of the Ushiromiya family head.
ああ、このまま自分は静かに殺されるなと、うっすらと感じていた。
信じられません。
Because there were all of these like Krau's absolute obsession with succeeding and proving to his father that he is worthy or whatever. In all of these things are all of the siblings kind of absorbed as they grew up. I felt like they were more ingrained than just something that happened later in their lives. Like it just gave me the sensation that the seeds for it were already there from when they were much younger, and they just grew up in that kind of environment with that kind of pressure, with that kind of, or building towards those kinds of objectives in life. But it seems that, yeah, that's where I went by the wayside. I guess my bad.
強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
Yeah, he was, but there wasn't really much, as they are describing it, there wasn't really much there, right?
Leon よ、自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。なのに、
Hey, Patch,
それ
thank you
はあ
for
っ
the
という間
beacon.
に過ぎ去るのだ。
Thank you, thank you.
心せよ。
自ら生きる人生。
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。殺された日々だったろうよ。
Yeah, that is true. I feel what he's trying to say there.
そうだ。私は生きたかった。いや、死にたかった。操り人形はどうすれば死ねる。
糸を断ち切ることです。
そうだな。それが死ぬことであり、生きることであり、解放だ。
Sounds very familiar with a bunch of other things. Before I realized that the world had grown troubled. World War II, the Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west, and the tide of war was changing. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. Of course, this was not out of compassion for me. It was because I was their precious puppet. So the war never really felt that close to me. However, when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. At that time, the Ushiromiya family had almost completely collapsed. And since the elders had apparently pilfered enough of the scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed to care little for what I did, now that they no longer had any use for me. Right, so even before World War II. Somehow I imagined it after, but okay. So Kraus is 52 in the events of October 86? Is that what you're telling me? That's... okay, that's much older than I thought. Rosa, I'm 53. Fine. Almost a 20-year gap between Kraus and Rosa? Wow, okay, okay. Yeah, alright. Alright. So I realized that I had finally found my time to die. Right. Okay, I see how that's coalescing. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from and began to search for a place to end my life. Yeah, this is this is gonna be an adjustment, okay?
戦地で死を求めようとしたのか。
同じ死ぬなら誰かの役に立つべきと思った。いや、違うな。私には自らの命を絶つ気力さえなかったのだろう。もっともらしく死ねる理由が戦争だったのだ。
おじい様は土木建築の知識がありましたので、海軍設営隊にて施設造成などに従事されたと聞いています。
とんだ誤算よ。何の取り柄もないと言っておけば、すぐにも死ねる最前線へ送られたものを。
最前線に行かずに済んだのか。
幸いと喜ぶ仲間もいたよ。私には逆だった。戦って死ぬという出来すぎた美酒の焼け酒が欲しかっただけなのだ。忘れられた島の上空を米軍の編隊は横切っていくだけ。彼らは私のために爆弾一つどころか鉛玉の一つさえ恵んではくれなかったのだよ。
おじい様はその日々の中でベアトリーチェにお会いになられたのですか？
そうだ。あれは海からやってきた。
どこで会った？島と言ったが。
ここだよ。この島にやってきたのだ。
お前たちは六軒島で出会っていたというのか。
どういうことですか？おじい様が六軒島を買い取るまでは無人島だったと聞いています。この島に日本軍の基地があったなどとは初耳です。
そうだな。あんなものは基地とは呼ばぬ。ただの岩窟よ。私はその岩窟の番人だったのだ。
1944. Okay. We have a good anchor in time. 44. Alright. Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry of the start of the war gone? The old attackers were now the ones on the defensive. At that time, it was said that the final trump cards for the Japanese military were the so-called special attack weapons. It was said that these ultimate weapons were packed with 1.55 tons of explosives, and capable of sinking any kind of warship with a single blast. To strengthen homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from Hachijojima to sorry, that's a lot of J's. to Yokosuka, all to house submarines loaded with special attack weapons. Okay.
八丈島に基地が作られたことは知っていました。しかしそれがロケン島にもあったなんて。
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。秘匿上の都合バカバカしい。お上の考えることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだった。
These truly were ultimate weapons, able to take down large warships in a single strike. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons in the waters just off of Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line of defense. So to aid in the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island Rokkenjima was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs. Ah, a large cave, okay. And this was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
建設岩窟を掘り広げただけを建設と呼ぶならな。しかもその上、基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
どうしてです？
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。滑稽な話だ。潜水艦もないのに潜水艦基地など今さら必要なものか。役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬわ。
The base on Hachijojima was actually outfitted with those weapons and became a base for direct attacks, but Rokkenjima was never supplied with any. Not only that, they cancelled the construction work entirely, leaving only a crew of minimal size stationed on the island, waiting for orders from above that never came. Could it be the fact that it was a hidden base sealed our fate? The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cave. And before Japan was running on pure copium, I can only imagine, Banjo. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt, all the while gazing up at the American formations flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospect of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here, and before any of us had to face a real battle. Of course, it was the opposite for me. I hoped beyond hope for the American troops to advance and kill me as soon as possible. And then, on one of those hollow days, let us go back there now. Back to the turning point in my life and my fate, when Shiromiya Kinzo finally became alive. How would the lady find her way here? Under what circumstance? Wow, okay.
貴様たるんでいるぞ。
Magic, yes. That's the answer.
決戦は間近というのに、そのへっぴり腰は何か。
Because like I would have understood that maybe he was moved someplace new, maybe a place with a port where people would be traveling for some reason during the war. But he's on an island that nobody knows of. Okay. Classic tune, classic tune. Stars seemed to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that would only make him more angry. I've no intention of being obedient. Still, it would be stupid to get myself punched for no reason. So I got up and stood at attention. The fighting's close, is it? You really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island? Then let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time.
その腐った目つきは何か。貴様、そんなに死にたくないか。そんなに米兵が恐ろしいか。そんな気合では打ち取れんぞ。
They hit me again. Could you please quit your whining already, filthy cowards? They give themselves over to this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit aren't any use when the battle becomes hopeless. When trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans rely on several other emotions to escape their fear. Interesting. These young, inexperienced soldiers found anger to be a very convenient emotion to fall back upon. They did drills by shouting in loud voices and swinging their bamboo spears around. Drinking the wine called anger was simply what they needed to do to numb their fear. The more one drinks wine, the more one needs to drink to get drunk. Oh, interesting, yeah. Their useless anger continued to pile up day after day without pause. As for me, I did not fear death, so I had no need of the wine called anger. This made their cowardice all the more apparent to me.
その目つきだ。後ろ宮、貴様の魂は腐りきっておるわ。魚だ。貴様の目は死んだ魚の目だ。
However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick up on my lethargy.
後ろには金蔵はいるか。注意殿がお呼びだ。立て。もたもたするな。駆け足。
First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer. First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokkenjima garrison. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence, and would reprimand his subordinates for slacking off at the drop of a hat. The stories of his life he'd spout off when in a good mood were all about how much of a thug he had been, ignoring the rules of society. On and on about how so-and-so was a prick, so he taught them a lesson, or how everyone was so scared of him that he got special treatment. He kept on talking about what a vile human he was as though it was a badge of honor. Normally, I had nothing to do with this disagreeable lieutenant. He would always hang around with his non-commissioned subordinates, so as long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Now that the construction project on this island had been suspended indefinitely, there was no longer any use for an engineer like me. So why did the lieutenant ask for me specifically? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything.
後ろ宮、貴様は外国語が堪能であると聞いたが事実であるか。
英語と中国語を話せるであります。注意。
The lieutenant liked to brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officers, but he held a bit of a grudge against me for being even more highly educated than him. He also felt uncomfortable about having me as a subordinate because he was younger than me. So I was definitely not the kind of person he could hit it off with. Just the fact that I knew several languages must have hurt his pride. My Airbnb. Italian.
わかりません。
では貴様にイタリア人との通訳は務まらんというわけか。
英語を喋れる者がいれば可能と思います。
なるほど、確かに。貴様、外国人と英語で話した経験はあるのか？
あります。
Why on earth would he need an interpreter in a cave on an uninhabited island that even our superiors have forgotten? Oh no, Toasted. Oh, that sounds terrible. His question made it clear that someone who would need an interpreter would be visiting Rokkenjima.
よし、後宮。貴様を俺の通訳に命ずる。
That evening I found out exactly what he was talking about. That pointless cavern submarine dock that had never been used was now being approached slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Of course, I knew that the Italians had been our allies. However, this was the first time I had seen anything from their military with my own eyes.
どうしてイタリア軍が？確か1943年にイタリアは降伏しているはずです。これはどういうことでしょう？
降伏したのはイタリア王国だ。だが、それを受け入れない者たちは、親独政権 RSI を樹立させ、戦争を続けたのだ。
RSI？
イタリア社会共和国。
Ay, ay. Things are tough nowadays, aren't they?
別名サロ共和国。
詳しいな。何も知らぬ者は、イタリアは枢軸国の中で1943年にいち早く降伏した腰抜けなどと呼んでいるが、それは間違いだ。イタリア社会共和国軍は開戦から1945年4月29日まで勇敢に戦ったのだ。
ベルリン降伏はその3日後だ。腰抜けどころか大健闘だな。しかし RSI 海軍が日本まで航行できるような潜水艦を持っていたとは驚きだ。
そうでなくともはるばる日本までやってきたこと自体が驚きです。彼らはなぜ日本に？ロッケン島に？
The submarine was both weather-worn and massive. This dock had never even been used by one of our own country's submarines. I doubt anyone here imagined that it would end up welcoming in one from a far-off nation. All of the guards of Rokkenjima, of which there were only about 30, stood at attention as the submarine docked.
イタリア軍なんて初めて見たぜ。なんでも事故か襲来で航行不能になったんだと。換気装置がやられて塩素ガスが換気できなくなったって聞いたぞ。中尉殿の話によると何か重要なものを運んでるって話だ。暗号変換器か新型エンジンなんかの設計図じゃないの。俺は積み荷云々より上層部がまだここを覚えててくれたことの方が驚きだぜ。
後宮、早く来い。貴様は通訳だろうが。
はい、中尉殿。
On top of the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked like those of a sailor, and it really didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. That probably meant that all of the commissioned officers in charge had died in the accident that had befallen the sub. Crew members crawled out of the hatch one by one, but they all looked pale and entirely worn out. I wasn't sure how long ago the accident had happened, but being crammed together in a tiny sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. Adding to the problem of the broken ventilation system was the fact that they couldn't afford to travel about carelessly on the surface of the waters around Japan right now. They had essentially traveled here inside a can of poison gas. Oh my lord. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital boat.
後宮、艦長は誰か聞け。
私がこの島の指揮官であることを説明せよ。
ようこそ日本へ。英語がわかる者は。
The crew members seemed to understand that I was speaking English, but it looked as though none of them could speak it. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted. Oh yeah, no, my claustrophobia is, yeah, it's dancing inside me, yeah. Just the thought of those things that we just read. Yeah, okay, great.
ようこそ日本へ。艦長でありますか？
Have any of you seen a submarine in real life? They're huge. It kind of makes sense why some of them are nuclear powered. No, I've never seen one in real life.
I can not speak English.
Is this where the obsession with like weird English comes from?
Please.
In this novel? Please, wait. The police answered. Sorry, the police. Haha. The officer answered in a slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling them to get someone among them who could speak English.
後宮、何と言っている？
待てと言っています。英語のわかる人間を呼んでいるのかもしれません。
I went to a submarine museum and yeah, I'd be close for. Oh, Jesus Christ, no. At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man's cough. It was a woman's. Aww.
私、英語わかるわ。
As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said this in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she was seemed like an angel descending upon us.
ようこそ日本へ。艦長はいますか？
艦長は死んだわ。士官はあそこの彼だけよ。
お悔やみ申し上げます。何かお手伝いはできますか？
新鮮な空気と水が欲しいわ。まだ息のある人間もいる。
You're absolutely right, Mancho.
休ませる場所が欲しいわ。
協力しましょう。他に英語のわかる人間はいますか？
But yeah, it would have been awkward to have all of this just be English, you know. It's fine, I understand it.
いたけどみんな死んだわ。私だけよ。
後宮、女は何を言っている？艦長は誰だ？さっきの男なのか？その女は何者なのか？早く通訳しろ！
The lieutenant wouldn't shut up. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear from the submarine, and more than a little annoyed to see all of her attention focused on me alone. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was.
注意殿。彼女だけが英語をわかるようです。彼女が彼らの通訳になります。艦長は死亡。代表者は先ほどの士官のようです。
あのうるさくあなたに叫んでいる男は何？まさかあなたの上司なの？
不幸なことに私が美しいお嬢さんを独り占めしているのが気に入らないんでしょう。
Yes. Perfect time and place to flirt with the lady. Yes.
あら、東洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思わなかったわ。綺麗な英語ね。あなたは育ちが良さそうだわ。あの怒鳴ってるみっともない男とは大違い。あなたがここの将校だったらよかったのに。
Who knew that in time he would become the rude old man who's shouting all the time?
おや、私も西洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思いませんでした。
あなたは面白い人だわ。名前は？
後宮 金蔵です。よろしければお嬢さんの名前も。
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニ。
ようこそベアトリーチェ、日本へ。
That was when I first met Beatrice, the woman who would capture my heart for the rest of my life.
ベアトリーチェとはイタリア人だったのですか？
そうだ。彼女は RSI 交換の娘だった。
those stages.
どうやら彼女の父親こそが一番の積み荷だったらしい。
Their most important cargo was her father. Wow.
残念ながらロッケン島にたどり着いた時にはもう死んでいた。
その交換がなぜ日本に？スエズ運河からインド洋を越えてはるばる日本まで来たというのか。
確かに同盟国としてはドイツの方がはるかに近いはず。なぜわざわざ日本までやってきたのでしょう。
途方もない規模の遠大な作戦か何かだったのかもしれん。その全容はわからん。
In reality, all these Italian sailors would be able to speak English at least a little. Yes, but it had to be only her, right? So that the connection could be made. Yes, plot reasons. Exactly, Banjo.
その潜水艦がただならぬ任務を帯びていたらしいことは後に理解することとなる。
Right. They said that there had been about 60 of them at the time of their departure. Wow, 60? That's not a small number. However, only about 10 of them, including Beatrice, had survived. Their submarine had apparently hit a mine or something in the nearby waters and sustained a great deal of damage. They told us that it had flooded rapidly with water, which had taken out the batteries and released a large amount of chlorine gas. Their sub had become completely incapable of continuing further, nothing but a massive lump of metal floating in the dock. Since the sub seemed to be carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. After questioning the Italians, with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, we concluded that this thing of immense value must have been her father himself. Apparently, Beatrice's father was extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought that he might have worked alongside the Italian Prime Minister himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently been part of some top-secret mission, now that the man himself and all of the commissioned officers had died, their reason for coming to Japan remained a mystery. And since the higher-ups were telling us to investigate, that meant that even they didn't know what it was. Their ship had broken down, their mission was unknown, and the high official they had been carrying was dead. Oy. And even the Japanese government didn't know why they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage had come to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end.
Yokatta. 日本の潮風はてっきり醤油の匂いがすると思ってたわ。
Okay, that doesn't sound like a nice thing to say.
お互い様です。イタリア人の髪はパスタでできてるって思ってました。
Okay, he responded in kind. Now they're on equal footing. It's okay. English was the international sea language, even when French was the international language for every other purpose. Okay, interesting. I did not know that part.
あら、そうよ。アルデンテに仕上げるには茹で加減が難しいの。なら日本人はみんなスパゲティネイロだわ。
よくご存知で。日本人はシャンプーの代わりにイカスミを使います。
Spaghetti doing. Cool sea facts with the golden witch. Yeah, exactly.
金蔵はすごいわ。何でも知っているのね。イタリアに来たことがあるの？
ありませ
Oh,
ん。
no. I have a lash in my eye. Oh god. Mm.
しかし、本はいろいろと読みました。
東洋人がイタリアの本を？へえ、例えばどんな？
ニッコロ・マキャベッリ、ダンテ・アリギエーリも。
Oh, I see.
だからあなたが永遠の淑女であることも存じていますよ。
I see. Okay, I see where it's coalescing.
お
Fine.
お、なんてこと。金蔵はとんでもない勉強家だわ。
I just met her, yeah, okay? Just give me some space to see what's happening here. I don't want to jump to any more conclusions or make weird assumptions. So.
あなたはひょっとして日本では高貴な家の出身なのでは？
さあ、どうで。
あなたは他の野蛮そうな日本人とはまるで違うわ。
It's actually an eyelash poking at my eye, but I mean, if that's how you want to see it, I'm not gonna stop you.
私にはわかるの。あなたはきっと高貴な家の人間だわ。
My eyeball is not having a good time. Though.
後ろ宮家は日本の貴族の家柄なの？
とんでもない。宝石で一山当てただけのただの成金の一族です。私が勉強していたのは高貴なるものとしてのたしなみではなく、何をすることも許されなかったら本を読むかバラをいじるか酒に溺れるかしかやることがなかったからですよ。
Beatrice hadn't asked that question out of malice. It had just been a curious question asked to a friend from a faraway country. Yeah, I'm noticing that there's a lot of things in the way their thoughts and questions are phrased. There are a lot of things that at a face value, if you would just see the text without like the characters behind it, without voice acting or whatever, it might sound weird or misplaced or maybe a little bit I don't know, like they only know stereotypes of each other, like him joking about Italians' hair being made of pasta and her saying things that the air in Japan smells like soy sauce, and like all of the other things, like, wow, you read Italian literature, an Asian man? Like when you put it, when you just like strip everything away and just look at the words, it might seem odd, but at the same time it just makes me think the world was so different back then. Like, maybe sometimes we take a little bit for granted just how connected we are to the world nowadays and how easily we have access to information, literature, or other things about other cultures. That back then it was actually very surprising. Like, how could someone from across the world know of stuff that I grew up with, for example, right? It's interesting. It's a thought. So, and that's basically what they're conveying there in a jokeful manner. It seems highly reminiscent of battler humor as well, so I'm having an even harder time thinking that this is Kinzo, okay? It's Battler's face and his voice, but this is Kinzo. Alright, I see. Maybe they didn't realize just how popular it was overseas. Right, however, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the faint, gloomy look on Kinzo's face.
許して、金蔵。あなたのような高貴な人がどうしてこんなおかしなところで兵卒の身分に甘んじているのか、深く考えなかったわ。
私の一族などどうでもいいことです。死ねば後ろ宮などという姓は何の意味もない。そしてそれこそがようやく私を解き放ってくれるのです。
金蔵は死にたくて軍隊に？そんなのダメ。家族が悲しむわ。
家族など私には誰も。
Oh my god. I have a wife for the sake of public appearances. And children. However, I've never wanted any of them. Everything. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by selfish, greedy old men. So, at least being stuck on this island, I can forget about all of that and find some peace. Peace. But haven't I spent each and every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet?
私にあなたの苦しみはわからないけれど、私の心ない言葉が傷つけてしまったことはわかるわ。許して、金蔵。
Forgive me, Kinzo. Oh, those words. I think they set me free. All of the Japanese people call me Ushiromiya. Every time I hear it, it's a constant reminder that I am the property of the Ushiromiya family. But she is different. She calls me Kinzo, not Ushiromiya. So maybe just for the time I chat with her like this, I can forget that cursed family.
金蔵。
I hadn't meant to make Beatrice feel guilty, but she seemed certain that her thoughtless words had hurt me.
ありがとう。あなたが私を金蔵と呼んでくれるから、私はやっと自分を取り戻すことができる。私はようやく本当の意味で私を見てくれる人に出会えた気がします。
金蔵、あなたはとても遠い異国で出会った外国人だけれど、あなたの心はとても繊細で美しい。私たちはきっと近所に住んでいたならとても当たり前な友人になっていたわ。私も嬉しいのよ。あなたは私のことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。カスティリオーニのご令嬢とは呼ばないわ。
We were both in the same position. Her Castiglione family must have been a rigid place as well. Though we came from different countries, we had finally found something we could truly understand about each other.
金蔵は親しい者にはなんて名前で？
いえ、普通に金蔵と呼ばれていました。
じゃあ、あなたは私をベアトリーチェと呼ぶのを改めるべきだわ。親しい人間は私のことをビーチェと呼んでいた。
Oh, interesting.
あなたもそうしてくれると嬉しいわ。
わかりました。これからは親しみを込めてビーチェとお呼びを。
ダメダメ。堅苦しい言葉はダメ。だって私たちはもう友人なのだから。
A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face.
あの美少があれから何十年を経ようとも我が記憶より薄れることはない。
おじい様はベアトリーチェと出会うことで自分を取り戻されたのですね。
平たく言や浮気だな。
It is true though. It's not false, right?
ウィルさんは今後も失言を繰り返されるなら、お尻をかばわれる癖をつけることをお勧めします。
After having his butt pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony.
おじい様にとってロッケン島はベアトリーチェと初めて出会われた特別な場所だったのですね。
うん。 私がこの島に来ることがなければ出会うこともなかった奇跡の島なのだ。
その潜水艦基地の名残とやらは今も残っているのか？
クワドリアンの近くに今も残っている。外界からは見えぬ入り江の影だ。吹き継がって漁師たちも近寄らなかった島だ。私以外に知る者はもはやいるまい。
クワドリアンと屋敷を結ぶ2キロにも及ぶ地下道はその基地の名残なのか？
そうだ。鍾乳洞を改造した広大な地下壕で地下を網羅し、島内各地を要塞化するなどという寝言の残骸だ。私はその地下道を生かし、島の両端に2つの屋敷を作らせたのだ。
2つの屋敷、2つの家族。後宮家の屋敷と後宮家から解放された金蔵の屋敷だったのですね。
そうだ。私には必要だったのだ。後宮という呪われた生から逃れるもう一つの場所が。
しかし同情するよ。はるばる日本までやってきて任務を成し遂げられなかったとは気の毒の限りだ。
She does seem quite, sprightly and in high spirits for someone who just lost her father and who'd spent a significant chunk of time trapped in a malfunctioning submarine with her dead father on board, too. I guess it's a way of the mind to cope with difficult times. If that even is something that's difficult for her.
パパの任務が何だったかよくわからないわ。
I'm saying all that because it hasn't really been established what her relationship with her dad was, so I don't know. It's up in the air.
どこか遠くへ逃げ、大切な日までそれを隠さなければならないと言っていた。
To hide it. Okay.
それとは
Is that the gold?
わからないわ。それはとても大切なもので、大切な日まで何年も隠しているつもりだったみたい。いえ、それと一緒に隠れているつもりだったみたい。私に異国の地で長い時間を過ごすことになるかもしれないと謝っていたから。
アンジェロ少尉は積み荷は特になく、君の父上が輸送すべき要人だったと言っていたが。
少尉はあなたたちを信用してないわ。私でさえ知っていることをいくつも隠してる。ひょっとすると少尉はパパの目的と積み荷を知っているのかも。
それが何だったにせよ、それはイタリア軍の任務さ。俺らには関係ないね。むしろ同盟国なんだ。頼ってくれればいいのに。
金蔵が良い人であることは疑わないわ。少尉にもあなたは信頼できる人間だと伝えてるんだけれど、どうして男というのは異教ではむやみやたらと厳格になるの？普段はみんなもっと陽気な人たちばかりなのに、ここへ来てからみんな妙に空気が張り詰めているわ。少尉は部下たち全員に常時銃を手放さないように命じてる。
That's not good.
まるでここが敵地かのようだわ。
That was true. The Italians were clearly the very opposite of relaxed. The Japanese soldiers watching this began to suspect that the Italians didn't really trust them at all.
軍人ならおかしいことじゃないさ。むしろこういう時こそ規律を引き締めて友軍に恥ずかしいところを見せたくないんじゃないか。
就寝時には必ず寝図板を立てるし、もう航行できないスクラップ同然の潜水艦に今もあなたたちを近づけないように見張りを立てているわ。私はなんだか日本人を露骨に毛嫌いしているように見えて気持ちが悪い。
True, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and had refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. This hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy. However, submarines are treated as classified in all countries. Maybe it was just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason.
慣れない生活を強いられてみんな気が立ってるんだろう。天候と女将の都合で君たちを本土へ運ぶ船の派遣がまた遅れてる。君たちをいつ本土へ送ってあげられるやら。
They had been told that a boat was being sent for them directly from the mainland. But apparently, thanks to the weather problems up the command chain and the recent air raids, there were no ships to spare for a forgotten island like this. There might have been some sort of diplomatic problem. After all, their homeland had already surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was that they'd been stuck on Rokkenjima for 2 whole weeks and no one had come to get them. Of course, we had some small boats on Rokkenjima. There was nothing physically stopping us from taking them to a nearby island. Still, Rokkenjima was technically a top secret base, and contact with the outside world had been strictly forbidden.
仕方がないし、それも悪くないわ。だって船が来てしまったら金蔵とはもう会えなくなってしまうんでしょ。
To me, those 2 weeks were the first I'd ever truly lived. The faint 20 years before all seemed to vanish in the sparkle of those 2 weeks. I realized that she would have to leave this place eventually, and yet this one moment felt so rich and dazzling that I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then I heard a voice calling for Beatrice in Italian.
Angelo少尉だよ。君に用事みたいだ。
またお小言かしら。日本人とあまり親しくするなと最近うるさいのよ。
I don't really know if I know how to read that. He approached, saluting Kinzo. Yeah, it's fine. And after glancing at Beatrice as though asking her to translate something, he began to speak in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious.
少尉はとても重要な話があるから、あなたたちの指揮官に合わせてほしいと言ってるわ。
Okay.
協力を求めたいと言っている。何のことかわからないわ。
重要な話？わかった。山本中尉を探そう。
Right, he had 2 of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize that this must be something very serious. Okay. The song again.
いいぞ！上げろ！
The winch creaked and the thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Did you just send me the link to the dictionary? Thank you. Very, very slowly, it was lifted up out of the submarine's cargo hold.
なるほど。イタリア人どもが我々を潜水艦に近づけたがらないわけだ。
Thank you for filling in my holes in the diction and ability to pronounce things. Thank you, thank you. The lieutenant and the others looked up at what the winch was slowly lifting up. All of them wearing unpleasant, forced smiles.
なんてこと。これが パの運んでいた積み荷だというの？
すごい。こんなの生まれ。
It was a mountain of gold ingots! There it is. Those carefully piled bars were being slowly lifted out of the cargo hold, one group after another. This gold had been their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it into Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on their way to hide it in some remote area. Was this some sort of strategy? A conspiracy? Embezzlement? Top secret transportation of wealth? This incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicions, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed an incredible 10 tons. That was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. They had strongly resisted showing this to us. However, the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take in water bit by bit. Rokenjima had been outfitted in an extremely slipshod way, so we had no means of repairing it. Also, while we could unload the sub, there was no way we could lift it up again once it had filled with water and sunk to the bottom. It was clear that unless action was taken, the gold would soon become completely impossible to transport. And so they had made the decision to unload it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason for all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out.
なぜこんな大量の黄金を国外へ？これだけあればイタリアの戦局を変えられたかもしれないのに。
戦局を変えるのは武器よ。でも戦後は何の役にも立たないわ。確かにお金も戦局を変えはするでしょうよ。でも戦後にもその価値は変わらないわ。
There was no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis powers would probably all surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone could tell this simply by looking at the American planes flying across the sky day after day. Yeah, exactly that, Vanja. However, gold would still be valuable after the war was over. Everyone stared upwards, dumbfounded, as the winch slowly lifted the dully sparkling gold. Well, now that you put it this way, yeah, I can believe it. But going at it backwards by like, oh, there was this witch that some time ago, long time ago, she gave Grandpa 10 tons of gold out of nowhere. What do I do with that? You know. Right.
イタリア人たちはこの黄金のことを本土へ報告しないことを望んでいます。
我が国に横領されたくないからであろうな。
彼は何と？
日本が黄金を横領するのを恐れているから報告されたくないのだろうと言っている。
少尉はむしろイタリア本国に知られることを恐れているわ。私たちにとって今の祖国は連合国の傀儡政権。彼らに知られれば黄金は返還することになる。しかしそれは私たちの敵に黄金を渡すようなもの。
They had come all this way to make sure that the gold didn't fall into enemy hands. They needed to hide this gold from the puppet government, until their homeland could be truly restored.
後宮、イタリア人たちに提案せよ。我々は協力を申し出たいとな。
協力とは？
イタリア人たちの言い分はこうであろう。彼らはその黄金を祖国に知られることなく隠したいわけだ。しかしこの島から運び出そうとすれば輸送船を手配せねばならなくなる。そうすれば本土に知られ、さらには イタリア本国にも知られることとなる。
そうなります。つまりあの黄金はもう六軒島からは運び出せない。
So they're gonna stick it in a bunker somewhere. Is that it? Their mission must have been to hide that gold in absolute secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration. Later on, several plausible rumors would circulate about how Germany also moved much of its secret wealth to certain hidden areas in South America just prior to its surrender. Yeah, now that you say it, I think I've heard something along those lines. Yeah, okay. It was a very natural conclusion to reach. That submarine was their only method of transporting the gold in secrecy, and it's become completely useless. They can't fully stop the water from seeping in, and it will probably sink completely before much longer. There's no longer any way for them to transport the gold in secrecy. In other words, their mission has ended in failure here in the Far East. So, just how is Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing that we assist them? Assist them. Oh. You're gonna take the gold.
この六軒島基地は誰も知らぬ秘密基地だ。近隣の島民たちはこの島を不吉な無人島と信じて近寄りもしない。言っている意味がわかるか、後ろ宮。
Means that anything goes.
彼は何と？
前にも話した通り、この六軒島基地は誰にも
It's
知られていない。
assistance time. Oh god.
見ての通り、戦略価値は何もなく、上層部にもすでに忘れられてる。注意は、この島に黄金を隠してはどうかと提案したいみたいだ。
Beatrice quickly translated this and told Angelo. He began discussing rapidly with his subordinates. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been their ally, but they probably didn't want the gold for reconstructing their motherland to be entrusted to Asians. Still, it's hard to imagine any other option for them.
激しく議論しているわ。他に手はないという者もいるし、それでも祖国に忠誠を尽くすべきだという者もいる。
I have such a bad feeling in my stomach right now.
少尉は板挟みになってるわ。
Hiding this gold was the final order given to them by their fallen homeland. However, by now, there was no way for that order to be carried out successfully. If the mainland or their own homeland found out... homeland, probably. Maybe I said that wrong. The gold would probably be confiscated by the wrong people from their point of view. If they really wanted to carry out their homeland's orders faithfully, Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable. Though the lieutenant couldn't understand their words, it seemed he realized how divided they were.
我々が協力すれば、あの黄金を厳重に隠すことができるぞ。
And possibly steal it in utmost secrecy too. Maybe murder each other over the gold in utmost secrecy too.
幸いなことに、廃棄された地下壕が長々とこの島の地下を横断し。
So fortunate. Amazing.
この島の地下に黄金を隠して埋めれば、誰にも発見できないと言ってる。
現実的な申し出だと議論してるわ。でも日本人の手を借りるのに抵抗を感じてるみたい。
Murder each other? Nah, they all left Kinzo the gold because he was such a great bud of theirs. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
議論が難航しているようです。
Show me a pal, Kinzo.
議論の余地などあるのか、イタリア人。我々の協力なくばあの黄金は隠せんぞ。 まさかいつまでも波打ち際に積み上げておくわけにもいくまい。
アンジェロ少尉は黄金のことを知る人間を最小で抑えたいみたい。
The wind is blowing, yeah.
日本人は信用できないけど、山本中尉の申し出が今は最善と見てるみたいよ。でもいぶかしがってるわ。
I mean, of course.
何を？
10トンの黄金を隠すという労力の提供と守秘義務を彼らが本当に無償で提供してくれるのかとね。
Yeah.
五分と五分だ。
There it is. There it is. Remember what happened to Eva when she saw the mountain of gold? Yeah. 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 I can't imagine good things are happening inside of these people when confronted with something like that. I remember comparing the gold to the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. It seems that it keeps becoming more and more true. Yes. Yes, it's the kind of the seduction of something powerful that corrupts you. Yep, pretty much that.
注意、それはまさか。
It was a different kind of power about the ring. This is, I guess, monetary power or something, but yeah, still.
あの黄金の半分を我々によこせ。
There it is.
それを手間賃に残りの半分を厳重に隠してやろう。
半分をよこせと言ってる。
The instant Beatrice translated that sentence, Angelo slammed his hands on the deck and stood up. Of course. Oh, really, Patch? Nice, nice. Good timing. Now we can make the references. You'll get them. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true to his boasts of once being a thug that everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had previously.
本来なら断りようのない話だ。8割を要求してもおかしくない。
Yeah. Yes, that is true. Nothing is stopping you from demanding that. Also, what is stopping them from just murdering you because you're demanding that? Also nothing. Like I said, anything goes. Anything goes. Alright.
それを敬意を表して五分と五分にしようと提案してい
What a
るのだ。
sign of good faith. I want to strip you of half of your thing that you're trying to protect. I'm doing it in good faith. Do you believe me?
これは我々だけに有意な話ではない。イタリア人たちが外部にこのことを漏らせば、すべての黄金は日本かイタリアに接収されるだろう。我々には1円たりとも転がり込んでこない。我々は全員が共犯でなくてはならないのだ。
全員に着服の共犯になれと言ってる。
That's a good summary of it. Yeah, pretty much.
注意はすでに軍人としてでなく個人として話をしている。
なんてこと。黄金に目がくらんだのね。
Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really did look as though he had been blinded by greed, just as Beatrice
あの
said.
まま山積みにしていれば、やがて本土から来る向かいの連中の目にいやおうなく入るだろう。そうなれば、ここにいる誰もが得をしないぞ。我々の申し出を受けて、早急に黄金を隠すべきだ。
アンジェロ少尉は日本政府やイタリア政府にはどうしても知られたくないみたい。彼は自分が与えられた任務に最後まで責任を持ちたいみたいよ。
つまりどういうことだ？
何割かを口止め料として与えてでも島内に地中深く埋めることを望んでるわ。もちろん下士官たちには異論もあるみたい。5割は問題外だと憤慨してるわ。
後宮、 イタリア人たちの感触はどうだ？
彼らも黄金がこれ以上の人目につくことを望んでいないようです。しかし取り分に異論があるようです。
少尉は1割ならば検討できると言ってるわ。無論山本中尉がそれで納得しないだろうとも言ってるけど。
後ろ宮、イタリア人の返事はいかに？
1割なら検討すると。
This time it was Lieutenant Yamamoto who slammed down on the desk. But the Italians didn't flinch either. An incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression still looked smug and in control. He was probably confident that he now had the initiative.
1割 ?1 割か。それいいだろう。なら1割を譲ってやろう。
He'll give up what?
四分六だ。これ以上は譲らんと伝えろ。
40% for the Japanese, 60% for the Italians. The lieutenant made it sound like he was willing to stand firm on that, but in truth these negotiations were not being made on an equal footing. If the Italians just wanted the gold for themselves, there wouldn't be much of a problem. But what if they really were true patriots and decided that they ought to return the gold, even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland, for the purpose of reconstruction? If so, they would probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy. Eventually, the Italian government would petition the allied nations for the retrieval of their gold. It probably wouldn't all make it back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and build the battered towns. If that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends would only be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was greedily planning to make this his own treasure island so that he and his subordinates could have an enormous fortune all to themselves. If he wanted those ambitions to bear out, the Italians would have to conceal the presence of the gold.
しかし疑問だ。アンジェロ少尉が誰にも黄金を渡したくないなら、沈みゆく潜水艦に任せて沈めればよかったはず。どうして荷上げを？
考えたくはないけれど、命令が遂行不能になった時点で、少尉はこの黄金を横領することを考え始めたのかも。彼は今、下士官たちに軍人としての意見と、祖国に家族が待つ一個人としての意見を聞きたいと言っているわ。堅物の下士官たちが激高してる。
The discussion between the Italians was becoming fierce and emotional. Though their homeland had fallen. Why am I saying it so weird? Okay. They had come all this way in accordance with its orders. They had probably been given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seemed they couldn't just agree to a foreigner's proposal to embezzle and split up the gold. Angelo looked like he was doing all he could to calm the unexpectedly fervent rage of his subordinates. Yikes. Looks like the gold is blinding them, too. It seems no one can sort out their own personal feelings and the way they want to be perceived.
奴らの返答はいかに？後ろ宮！
ビーチェ、周囲が返事を求めてる。
考える時間が欲しいと言ってるわ。私はあなたと話せたから気が紛れてよかったけれど、他の人たちはそうじゃないの。とても長い後悔の果てに大勢の仲間を失って極限状態でここにいるわ。唯一の心の拠り所だった任務ももはや喪失してる。どうすればいいのか彼らも分かってないの。
注意。彼らは時間が欲しいと言っています。
いいとも。大いに議論したらいい。しかし時間はないぞ。隠すとなったら時間と手間がかかる。明日の正午までに結論しろ。 異常だ、イタリア人ども。
回答期限は明日の正午だそうだ。周囲まるで脅迫だ。
少尉は全員の意見を聞くと言ってるわ。
感触は
多分難航するわ。少尉自身は山分けもあり得ると考えてるみたいだけど、下士官や他の仲間たちは多分反対するわ。みんなこの極東までの航海で大切な仲間を大勢失ってる。彼らは頑なに祖国への忠誠を貫きたがってる。
周囲の申し出は断ると。
断ってもどうせ黄金は誰かの手に渡るわ。何も残らないならせめてインゴットの一本ずつでも密かに持ち帰ろうという少尉の言い分に同調者も出そうだけど、こういう時の男って勢いだけが迷走するわ。私も見当がつかない。
イタリア人たちの胸中は複雑でしょうね。
Seems I messed up some of my sound settings. Sorry about that. I think it's because I restarted my PC and like things went out of whack. Great.
彼らにとって降伏後のイタリアは敵国同然だろう。黄金をそのイタリアに返還するのは彼らの長い旅路を全て否定するのと同じだ。
しかし黄金を着服して山分けすることも彼らの旅路の否定になります。
彼らが義理立てすべき祖国はすでに滅んでいる。その時点で彼らの旅路の意味などもう失われてる。気の毒な話だ。
どうせ意味のないことならインゴットの一本でもありつけた方がまだマシだと。
損得感情で言えばそうなる。そうならねえのが男ってもんだがな。
The Italians were gathered in a cramped room, arguing fiercely.
反対です。死んだ戦友たちのためにも断固軍人魂を貫くべきです。
貫くとはどういうことか。この島に黄金を隠せということか。東洋人たちの申し出を受けるということか。
東洋人たちは信用できません。特にあの山本という男、断じて油断できません。
黄金を荷上げして日本人たちに見られたのはやはり失敗でした。艦と共に沈めるべきでした。
日本人の基地で沈めてどうする。やがていつかは引き上げられる。
Really? With what?
隠したことにはならない。いずれにせよこの島から黄金を誰にも知られずに運び出す方法はない。
洋上で名誉ある自鎮を選んでいたらこんなことには。
艦のダメージが致命的だったことがあの時点で分かっていたら、どうしてあの時少佐は日本軍に救援要請を。日本軍にこの黄金のことを知られたら少佐はどう任務を遂行するつもりだったんだ。
少佐が救援要請を出した時点で我々の任務はもう失敗していたんだ。諸君にも祖国で待つ家族がいるはずだ。そして極東の島国までよく航海に耐えた。それに対するこれは正当な報酬なのだという考え方もある。
あの時日本人に助けなど
絶対に反対だ。死んだ親友たちが浮かばれない。こんな目に。
少尉、日本人が友好的でない場合、我々は最終的解決手段を辞さない覚悟が必要です。
伍長、最終的解決手段とは何か。
Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room.
日本人たちはたるみ切っています。実戦経験もない腰抜けばかりです。我々は精兵です。
Woohoo, there it is.
すでに基地内の間取りのほぼ全てと日本人の人数、配置状況は把握しています。少尉の命令があれば短時間で制圧できるでしょう。戦闘員と思わしきは山本を含めて数人程度。 残りは軍属の作業員風情です。上辺の人数は日本人が上ですが、実質兵力ではこちらが優位です。
日本人を殺せば迎えの船が来た時、それをどう説明する？ごまかしようがないぞ。
死体さえ見つからなければどうとでもごまかせます。少尉、この基地を制圧するのは容易です。山本以下主要な兵士数人を殺してみせれば、あっさりと作業員たちは降伏するでしょう。彼らに黄金を運ばせ地中に埋めましょう。もちろん彼らの口は永遠に塞ぎますが。
日本人たちを皆殺しにするということか。
殺しましょう。全員殺せば黄金のことは誰にも知られずに済むのです。
At that moment, the door, which had supposedly been locked, opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no! As the yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield, and they all dropped to the floor. However, in this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for death. Fortunately, the shoddy grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open and 3 Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in. We're reading the thing that is the clearest and makes the most sense of everything we've ever read in this novel so far. We're reading, unfortunately, a piece of humanity. A military drama at the moment, but who knows what genre we'll hop to next. Yeah, we've been through all of them, haven't we? Ay, ay. In this small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood, with casualties on both sides. The 3 who had jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over, moaning and thrashing.
Gino! Gino! くそ、肺をやられてる。助からない。幸運な犠牲だ。あの手榴弾が不発でなかったら全員死んでる。
Well, are you sure you're gonna live for much longer? The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged that the negotiations would not go his way and had decided to make the first move. Or else, maybe he had been planning from the beginning to put them in the position of having to take a vote, in order to gather them all in one place. Ooh, that's a dark thought. Rokenjima belonged to the Japanese. If they killed all of the Italians, then not half, but all of the gold would go to them. Yeah. Like I said, anything goes. In this sealed island of Rokenjima, everything goes. There was still a chance the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. They heard gunfire from down the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked.
やむを得ん。日本人は殺せ。
注意。あいつらできます。この連中ただの船乗りじゃね
え。なるほど。黄金の番人を任されるだけの兵士ということか。人数はこちらが上だ。焦らず囲んで殺せ。イタリア人狩りだ。
As soon as I heard the sound of repeated gunfire, I knew. I knew that whatever it was that had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst into flame. The eyes of our soldiers when looking at the gold had not been normal, of course not. Yes, those eyes had been entranced by demons. The Italians had also been at breaking point due to the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped after becoming trapped in a distant land where you can't understand the language or the writing? Thinking I had to do something, I ran towards the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it, that was an extremely foolish thing to do. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other. People killing each other. And yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards the sound as though I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive such a thing was in the heat of battle. Warrant Officer Hiraoka was lying face down, his entire body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear that he had somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. No, he was still twitching. He might not be dead yet. Ugh. But on this island without a doctor... No, even if we had a doctor, how could anyone possibly save a man who had been shot this many times in the chest? When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw 2 more blood-stained Japanese corpses. I fell backwards pathetically on my butt, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I had ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war. Even though millions were dying both east and west, this was the first time I met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yeah, so rejoice, Kinzo. Yorokobe shonen. Yeah. Isn't this the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell out loud? Come for me, magnificent death. Chidorin got activated. I knew you'd like that one. Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. He dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same.
Tajima-kun, what happened?
Someone yelled in Italian, and at the same time Tajima-kun let out a scream. Then he grabbed onto me as he fell to the floor. A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. As he spat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died. But the shocking event of seeing someone die right in front of me did not capture my attention. No living thing is concerned with the deaths of others at a fundamental level. The one thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. My attention was fully occupied by the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing. Tajima-kun's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood splattered. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian still trying to finish him off, even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, Kinzo. Now you'll finally get what you've wanted all this time. The Italian hadn't fired to finish off Tajima-kun. He had been aiming at the man Tajima-kun had fallen on. Me, Ushiromiya Kinzo. I pushed his corpse aside, scrabbled against the floor and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor hard enough to tear off the ring finger fingernail on my left hand. Okay. When faced with death, humans truly can resist with all they've got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but that didn't matter at all. I heard yelling in Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die. Of course you don't. Why? Didn't I want to die so badly? But now, I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me. Beecha did. I can only be free when I talk with her. No. By talking with her, I was finally alive for the first time. I was finally born. I want to live. I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Spoiler, Kinzo's not going to die, no. Stay cool, Kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might as well be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, mouth and drool. When I stumbled over something and fell, I was finally able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfight was still going on, and it had spread throughout the entire base. Beecha, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all of the Italians to steal the gold. Beecha probably won't be an exception.
Beecha. Beecha.
Meeting you was the first time I ever lived. The first time I was ever born. So if you die, I'll die again. I could feel every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushiromiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified that I might really be shot if I went back. But I no longer wanted to die, in the truest possible sense. So I was able to overcome my fear.
君は知らなくていい。そこにじっと隠れていろ。同胞が呼びかけるまで出てくるんじゃない。
イタリア人の声が聞こえた。そこにいるぞ。
くそ、誰東洋人め。
Rubens stood with Beatrice behind his back and neatly shot the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta. I don't know how to read that. Do you read it like a year? M1934, I don't know. However, one of the 8mm bullets from their Type 94 semi-auto pistols went straight into Rubens' chest. Oh no. I mean, it's expected, but yeah. All three of the shooters were stuck in the chest and fell down in a heap.
逃げろ。森の中へ隠れ。ルーベ
ンス。おやおや。賑やかではないか。
The next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just sounded. Adding on Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising that he had noticed the encounter. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Rubens' gun.
躊躇なく銃を拾おうとするとは イタリア女は実に物騒だ。くそ、二人がかりでしくじりやがって。
He spat this last part at the two dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, it wasn't particularly surprising, and this wasn't the only place it was happening. Nearly everyone met head-on in these tiny, cramped tunnels. When both sides shot recklessly in a situation like that, the result was 2 corpses. So the way to be fastest was to pull the trigger immediately the moment you sensed another person. That was the only way to make it through this battle without ending up with a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on their own countrymen when they unexpectedly ran into each other. And in the midst of all this, large numbers of Japanese men who had no idea what was going on ran towards the noise and became victims one after another. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The slaughter engulfed the entire base. There was a fierce gun battle taking place in the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop bit by bit. Blood-stained corpses lay scattered all across the base. At first it had probably been a proper gunfight. Oh, so sorry. However, as they gradually became desensitized, it devolved into that most basic cause of wars throughout humanity. The desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Ah! Yeah, pretty much. Isn't it? Whenever they heard words they didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from those of man-shaped beasts. Ooh. You feel that daily, Bunch? What's happening? After all, they couldn't understand pleading in another language. So it had long ago turned into a mere massacre. As the number of dead surpassed the number of living, silence began to return to the base. Just when it felt as though everyone had died and the desolate sound of the wind blew through the caves, there would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of a gun, and one would remember that the massacre still wasn't over. This happened over and over again, until eventually true silence fell. It marked the pitiful end for those led astray by cold. And the wind, of course. Hey, Moschan, no worries, no worries. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpses of friend and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows somewhere. So he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for the remaining enemies. There was no sign or trace of any living person. Maybe all of the people in this base had died. The Japanese struck first, but at that time, we were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men. So perhaps I should be grateful for today. Even if the boat had come to take us away, there would have been no honor for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. From around the corner I noticed the sound of a leg being dragged along the ground, and I strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and shuffling with a limp? Noticing them before they notice me greatly helps my chances. At this stage, there's no point in taking prisoners. We must dispose of all the Japanese. I'll dash around the corner, quickly check to see who they are, and shoot if it's a Japanese person. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably don't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps had come close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian.
逃げて！
貴様貴様を探していたぞ、アンジェロ少尉。これで全員だな。俺はしっかり貴様らの死体を数えて回ってたんだからな。
しっかりして！アンジェロ少尉！
Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor, then his knees and then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out, so Yamamoto had been able to hit his target. And he had managed it with a short-barreled handgun in one hand and a woman as a hostage in the other.
それにしても我が六軒島守備隊の情けないことよ。
Kinzo's gonna put one right in your forehead. I'm calling it right now.
まさか私以外は全員死んだのではあるまい。やれやれクズども。
女を盾に取らなきゃ戦えない人手だし離して。
静かにしろ。イタリア女は実に騒がしい。おとなしくしてれば命までは取らんという。
It was such an obvious lie that even he wore a bitter smile. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died along with the garrison in a gunfight. That was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell, and so he couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. At this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he could at least grab as many ingots as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard. Yes. She almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. She fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach and pointed his gun at her.
じゃじゃ馬を飼いならす趣味はないのでな。貴様は死ねえ。
注意、彼女は無関係だ。話してやれ。
Don't try to reason with him. Kinzo had jumped out from the shadows. He was holding a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses.
後ろ宮か。おう、生きておったか。
彼女を離せ。苦しがってる。
貴様であろう。イタリア人どもに攻撃があることを密告した。
何の話だ。
Yamamoto didn't know that the grenade had been a dud. The surprise attack, which he had been certain would work, had failed, so he had decided that Kinzo must have tipped him off.
貴様のせいで奇襲が失敗してこのざまだ。この裏切り者め。貴様がこのイタリア女を通じて内通していたことはお見通しよ。
あなたが黄金に目がくらんだから この事態を招いたのではないのか。
逃げて金蔵。この男は命乞いしてる人も撃ったわ。あなたも撃たれる。
喋るなイタリア女。もう一度口を聞いたら容赦なく撃つぞ。
Well, she doesn't understand you speaking Japanese, so I don't know what the point is, but okay. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut.
よせ、やめろ。彼女は何の関係もない。
ああ、銃を上官に向けるとはどういうつもりか。頭を冷やせ愚か者め。私とお前で口裏を合わせる。あの黄金の山は私たちだけのものではないか。私一人では少々をくすねるくらいしかできんが、お前と二人でならもっと多くの数をくすねることができる。上官面をするつもりはないぞ。男同士二人できっちり山分けしようじゃないか。
五分五分に分けようと言って、あなたは彼らの寝首をかこうとしたのではないのか。
後ろ宮、どうやら貴様は黄金より鉛の方がお好みらしいな。
Without any hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. It grazed Kinzo's right ear. If Yamamoto's aim had been just a bit better, the bullet would undoubtedly have slammed into Kinzo's face.
Kinzo! よくも貴様
Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out and planted her right foot in Yamamoto's crotch. Yes, good girl. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face and he stomped on her chest. Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping that she could withstand the coming pain. No one would want to have their eyes open at the moment they were shot. Thick spurts of blood squirted out of Yamamoto's chest.
あんたがあんたの都合で、私も私の都合であんたの命を奪う。
Was Yamamoto able to hear the last of Kinzo's words to him? In his last moments, Yamamoto seemed to grin. Then slowly he fell over backwards, a river of blood trailing from his body. Well, it wasn't the headshot that I predicted, but...
Kinzo!
Yeah.
無事なの？てっきりあなたが撃たれたと。
Beatrice tried to stand up, but then doubled over and started coughing.
ビーチェ、怪我をしたのか？
あばらが痛むわ。その人でなしが激しく踏んだものだから。
大丈夫か？折れていなければいいんだが。
All enemies dead, battle music over here.
これくらいで折れるほどイタリア女はやわじゃないの。でもありがとう。あなたは命の恩人だわ。あなたが来なければ私はきっとそこに転がっていたわ。
Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. We didn't have the option of waiting possibly for several days for the ship that was coming. I mean, you kind of have to paint that picture in your head because no one's showing that. I think they're trying to capture the relief of the moment. Yeah. I made the decision to ferry her off this island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base is lying there, dead. The next island over, Nijima, is close. A small boat should be able to take us there.
君を病院へ運ばなければならない。君が思っているより傷が深かったらいけない。
Yeah, I mean, cracked ribs, there are nothing to joke about.
知らなかった。この島には病院もあるのね。
ない。隣の島へ船で運ぶ。君は病院へ。私はこの島での出来事をうまく片付けないと。とばっちりで軍法会議者だ。
What does it actually mean to clean this up?
頼みがあるの。私を病院へ連れて行かないで。
どうして？
病院へ行って大使館に連絡が行けば、私はやがて本国へ送還されるわ。そしてきっとあれこれと尋問を受けるんだわ。
I see.
私はママを見殺しにした奴らを自分の祖国とは認めないの。もう私の帰るべき祖国はないの。ここが私の終点だから、もう私はどこへも行きたくないの。私に優しくしてくれたアンジェロ少尉もルーベンスもみんな死んでしまった。
だから君までここで死ぬと？イタリア女はヤワじゃないんだろ？生きるんだ。
ねえ金蔵、生きるってどういう意味？あなたが教えてくれたはずよ。生きるってのはただ息をすることじゃないわ。私はイタリアへ帰りたくないの。
ビーチェ。
あなたは私と出会うまで死んでいたと言ってくれたわ。でもそれは私も同じなの。潜水艦の中で私は死んでいた。祖国も滅び、ママも死んだ、パパもね。私はこんな船沈んでしまえと願ったわ。だからここにたどり着いた時、実は死に損ねたとがっかりした。
What the coinky dink.
その矢先よ。少尉が英語がわかる者はいるかと騒ぎ出したの。
When Kinzo met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. And when Beatrice met Kinzo, she also forgot about dying.
私は祖国も家族も友人たちも失った私をあなたにさらってほしいと願うの。
ピーチ
ェ。でもそれは叶えられない望みだとも分かってる。ならばせめて迎えの船が来るまでの数日間をあなたと一緒にいたいの。胸の痛みなんて気にしない。だって迎えの船に連れ去られたら私はもう死んでしまうのだから。
Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest.
お願い、金蔵。迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいから私をさらって。
その願いは叶えられない。
Looking apologetic, Kinzo lifted Beato up and gently sat her in the boat.
育児なし。やっぱり日本の男は軟弱だわ。
そうだな。私は育児なしだ。だから君の願いは片方しか叶えられない。
With a clunk, he placed the object wrapped in a jacket into the boat.
片方とは？
迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいから。の方は叶えられないということさ。
意味？
君をさらう。そっちを叶えることにした。
金蔵。
There has to be a doctor on Nijima. I'm wearing a navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be of the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I have right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. Haha, I see. She came from a distant country, took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. The witch who came bearing gold revived me with her magic.
君は魔女だな。
Yes, I guess so. Okay, I see.
黄金の魔女だ。
ええ、黄金の魔女よ。みんなと同じレシピで作ってるのに、私だけがパスタから消し炭を生み出す錬金術が使えるの。あなたと同じく私も、あなたがいてくれる限り生きることを許される屍。あなたがいなくなったら私はすぐにでも死んでしまう。
死なせない。
本当に？
絶対に。
だってね、だってあなたは私をさらったんだから。
Golden magic, yeah. Nanjo. All right. Is this a good moment to make a save and leave it here for tonight? I think it is. We overcame the massacre moment. Yeah. We were a bit on the shorter side of the usual time box, but I'm quite tired. Tomorrow I wake up at 6, so I'd rather just, yeah. This looks like the perfect spot for me. It's fine. Great. Thank you for confirming. And thank you for being here. This has been quite a trip. Actual legit answers. Yeah. Oh, thank you for joining, Mokchan. Yeah, here we are. World War II stream. Oof. Yeah. Ooh, I see. My overlay is not loading properly. Like, it's supposed to say subscribers and cheers and follows, and the chat is supposed to appear there, but you're typing in chat and it's not appearing. Something is really wrong with my internet. Holy heck, what? Yeah. I mean, here it's working and it hasn't even been refreshed. Oh no, there it is. It went away. Here it's working. Wow. Yeah, something really is up. I mean, I'm glad in the end I managed to stream tonight. Small chat, yeah. Yeah, I need to love you a bit more so that you are seen. Yeah. I'm really happy stream happened because yeah, I've been struggling with it even for work. I had quite a lot of issues today with it, and we reset the router like 3 times at least or something along those lines. I also did it once like 30 minutes before stream of something because it was really working out for me. And I just hoped when I would be ready for stream that it would work, and then it didn't. And yeah, panic moment. But yeah, right. Here we are. We're in tiny format tonight. I can't even load my own Twitch stream. It's to that point where who knows what the hell's happening. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully by tomorrow I figure something out. And yeah, smallness tonight. Sorry. I still want to see you, or at the very least, you know, have your beautiful, kind, sweet words and emote choices be recorded in the VOD of the stream. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna switch to the other one. That seems to not be working. Yeah, I'll make some time tomorrow to debug it a bit, I suppose. Reminder that this week we're also streaming tomorrow instead of Thursday. I think I might have forgotten to fully update the little widget underneath the stream on Twitch. That's my bad, but I did announce it in Discord a while ago that this would be the schedule, so I hope we're good. Let's edit that right now. Yeah, so Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Usual time. There we go. Yeah, so I can load things, but my stream is not loading for me. It's just spinning. Right, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Yep. Okie dokes. We will keep going with this tomorrow. Yeah, thank you for joining. And hopefully tomorrow there will be less technical difficulties. But I'm really happy that the stream just went through in one piece. There was no dropping and coming back or whatever, because that would have been annoying. This was really good. And I wouldn't have wanted to have it interrupted, so appreciate the things that do work. You know, appreciate the things you do have, and the things that don't work or we don't have, we'll figure them out. Yeah. For now, I will say goodnight. Thank you so much for joining me. You are lovely and sweet as always, and if you can manage to make time, see you tomorrow. If not, you know, see you some other time during the usual scheduled streams. Yep. For now, take care. Good night. Love y'all. You're amazing.